Year-end tax planning stuff you need to be doing. You've got to do this. We're going to show you some Right Capital software to show you what 1040s look like and why you need to be paying attention. Look, Papa just looked. That was great. So let's dive into this here. If I can get this. This thing never wants to cooperate with me. It's weird. There we go. All right. So we got Matt and Mary. Well, we got Matt single and Mary single. I guess they were both single and they've since married. So we should say Matt and Mary married, but forgot to change from single to married. But that's okay. All right. So let's see what we got here. I'm going to share with you their profile, and what you'll see here is that we're going to make this as simple as possible. They got a house at $150,000. And they got $1 million in a taxable account in the Wellesley Income Fund. That's it. All right. So Wellesley Income Fund. If we go up to investments, we're going to see how it's broken down. And the nice thing about the Right Capital is it literally pulls the portfolio of the ticker, and it gives us the breakdown. I think according to Morningstar actually, which is pretty sweet. So 5.5% international, 11% international bonds, 47% U.S. bonds, 4.9% cash, and you can see that's 30% U.S. equities. It's fantastic. I wonder if it actually shows you not the concentration, the sector and style. Yeah, it breaks it down between what they have: consumer cyclical, technology. That's the portfolio. So not much technology, a lot of consumer defensive, a lot of healthcare, a lot of utilities. Yeah, there you go. That's pretty cool. Concentration doesn't say that. Asset allocate. Hey, buddy. Excuse me. It doesn't really tell us in terms of large or small caps here. No. All right, then finally tax out. Oh, here we go. Holding tax allocation. So it's all in. What is that, buddy? No, hey, come on. It's all in a taxable account, which I want to share you why. Then holdings will just be this one fund. Okay. All right. So let's go into this a little bit more. So that's their profile. All right. So Matt and Mary single, who are married, are I think 66. Yeah, they're both 66. Okay, and they're both retired. So their goals are to have $2,000 a month in retirement expenses. They need $2,000 a month, and then they need $10,000 a year in healthcare. So basically $34,000 a year is their income. They have no other money, and we don't have them getting Social Security because I'm going to show you why you need to start doing your tax planning now. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go to, if I can get old Pablo to cooperate here. All right, there we go, big man. We're going to go to retirement. All right, and we're going to show you the cash flow scenarios. Right now, I don't care about any of that stuff. We're not doing financial plan. We're doing some tax planning here. I want to show you the cash flows. And what you'll see here is no taxes. All right, so they got $37,000 of expenses, but no income because they're not getting Social Security. $37,000, no income. So their total outflows are $37,000. But where's that money coming from? Well, if we go to accounts, we'll see that is going from withdrawals from accounts. So that $37,000 is coming from their taxable account. You can actually click that link. I'll just show you. All right, so $37,000 is coming from that taxable account. All right, so far so good. So they have $37,000 of income they need. They got $37,000 coming from the taxable account. I think if you go to invested asset, their portfolio return is $48,000. And how you know that, if you go up to investments, and they'll get a 4.8% return is what I'm assuming on this portfolio, 4.8%. So they're getting, going back to profile, going back to retirement, excuse me, they're getting a, good boy, they're going to cash flows. They are getting, hold on just a second, right there, investment account. They're getting $48,000 on that $1 million they had, if that makes sense. All right. So far so good. Now we're going to go back to accounts. Anything we need to see here? No, it looks good. And their account is growing more than their, let's see, right here it starts turning. So right here is when they're getting a less of return than their cash flow is. So they have 1.061 million, 1.064, then 1.063. You can see how it's starting to decline as they get older just because inflation is eating alive in terms of 3% inflation on expenses, 5% inflation on healthcare, but taxes as well. So if we're going to go back to cash flow, watch this. Not much in terms of taxes, not much in taxes right there. Let's see if they pay anything in tax. Not much taxes. So what's happening is their expenses are going, if we go back to let's go back to right here. Their expenses are growing up, building up each and every year, more so than the rate of return on their portfolio. So right here, their expenses are $37,000. Fast forward until 2040 is $74,000, and what you'll see here is their portfolio is not keeping up. The returns on the portfolio are not keeping up that expenses. If I can scroll down here, so here we got 2040. Their cash flow is $74,000, but that's what their expenses needs were, $74,000, but they only had $45,000 in portfolio return. So they're dipping into principal by what's that, about $30,000. All right. So what I want to do is show you now is the taxes. All right. So this is why you got to be paying attention. So what you'll see. Not much tax. I mean, just a tiny little bit, and that's it. And the reason for that, but watch, all right? So a tiny little bit of taxes. Now, first thing I want to show you, though, is we're going to talk about the 1040 in just a second. We're going to show you expenses. Now, you can adjust this yourself, all right? So you can adjust this yourself. And we're going to say qualified dividends. Of all the dividends they receive, 85% of qualified dividends. All right, long-term capital gain, we have 90% of all capital gains as long-term capital gain. You can change that right there. We can do portfolio turnover. If you want to do 5%, you can do whatever you want. Right now, I'm just doing 0 because I want to show you something. All right, so in this case, if they got $10,000 of capital gain, $90,000 is subject to long-term. If they got $10,000 of dividends, $8,500 is subject to qualified dividend rates. All right, and then we have no capital loss carry forwards. You can put that in there if you want. Portfolio turnover, if you want to have a fee, you can do that. You know, I'll do that some other time, but I don't want to do that right now because I want to show you the 1040. Watch this. So we're going to look at the 1040, and this is 2020. And what we'll see is we have interest of 20, and again, this is basically going off of the VWINX, the Wellesley Income Fund. So they got roughly $23,000 of taxable interest, of which tax exempt is $462. They got $8,300 of dividends, of which $7,100 is 85% of that is qualified. All right, so we got between these two, that's about $30,000. But why is there $59,000 here of total income? That doesn't make any sense. Whoa, what's going on? We have taxable interest of $22,000, $23,000, $8,000 of ordinary dividends of dividends, but we have $59,000 of tax of total income, AGI, $59,000 of AGI. What is happening, right? And what's interesting is of that $59,000 of AGI, we have a standard deduction of $27,000, all right, and we have taxable income of $32,000, but we don't pay any tax. So here's tax. Line item 15, 0 for tax, even though we have taxable income of $32,000. They're in the 12% tax bracket. Why is no tax? And what we got to do here is we got to go to these schedules. All right, so we're going to show you. We got capital gains of $27,902 because what I do is we had a capital gain. They have to sell some of the portfolio in order to pay the bills. In this case, they had to sell $27,902 of capital gain, and that's what they're going to pay tax on. Now, if you go down here, we'll see of the capital gain, where was it? Hold on a second, right? Maybe I got to go schedule. Hold on a second. So that's schedule 1. So you can see $27,902 of capital gain. Capital gain is a tax schedule D. That's what it was, schedule D. So we're going to show you schedule D. So you got $27,902 of capital gain, of which $2,700 is short term and $25,112 is long term. Does that make sense? So because their long term capital gains are $25,000 and short term is taxed as ordinary income, but it doesn't matter because if we go back to the 1040, all that is tax free because you take your short term capital gains and then you take the other qualified ordinary dividend that is well below their tax bracket. They're still in the 12% tax bracket, if that makes sense. So the long-term capital gain, all right, long-term capital gain and qualified dividends, $7,300 of qualified dividends plus $25,000 of long-term capital gains are tax-free. But they still had $400. They had about $1,200 in ordinary dividends. And they had about $2,700 of short-term capital gain, which is subject to as ordinary income. But because they have well below their standard deduction, they don't have any tax. I hope that makes sense. So you can see they got $59,000 of income because it's tied with tax exempt, a little bit tax exempt interest, taxable interest, but it's long-term capital gains and qualified dividends. It's all free and clear of any taxation whatsoever. Because what they do is they take your taxable interest plus those other accounts that you have, short-term capital gain and ordinary dividends, and they add all that up, and it's all tax-free because it falls under the standard deduction. There's $23,000 plus a $2,000 short-term capital gain plus the ordinary dividend of about $1,000. That's all falls well below the $27,000 standard deduction. All the rest of the capital gains is completely tax-free. So anyway, no taxes. But watch this. I hope that makes sense. So if we go forward, we go to 2027. Let's just go 2027, and this is after the Trump tax bill goes away. You got a little bit of tax here, not much. So you got $24,000 of interest, $8,800 of dividends, of which $7,500 was qualified dividends. So that will be subject to the 0% tax rate as long as they're still in the 12% category. In this case, 15% category. $63,000 of total income, and this is their taxable income right there. Basically $35,000. And if we go to Schedule D, man, buddy. $3,000 of short-term capital gain and $27,000 of long-term capital gain. So we go back to the Schedule 1040. What we'll see is we got just a tiny little bit of short-term capital gain plus taxable interest that is being subject to income tax. All right, and then a little bit of qualified ordinary dividend. So that would put them right there as the taxes. All right, but I want to show you something. All right, so that's right there, we're doing fine. But watch what happens when we add Social Security. All right, so now we're going to say, we're going to go to income. We're going to go to match Social Security. And we're just going to say he's going to get $2,500 at his full retirement age. It's PIA. And we'll say Mary's also going to get, let's say she's going to get $2,500 at her full retirement age too. All right, so now they're each getting $2,500 a month at their full retirement age. Watch what happens to taxes now. Crack how? Watch this. Look at that. Now it's starting to go up because that small amount of ordinary income of long-term capital gains, qualified dividends is now put in, plus the Social Security, plus any taxable interest that they have, is putting them into a tax position for sure, because now they're no longer in the 12% tax bracket. They're in the 22% tax bracket. So if you go to when they start taking Social Security, which is going to be, we'll just say 2030, you see they got $102,000 of Social Security benefits. Only about 60% taxable, right? But the fact's they got $102,000, but only $60,000 is taxable. But they still have $40,000 of taxable interest, plus qualified dividends, plus you're gonna have long-term capital gains. And if we go over here, we can see their Schedule D. Schedule D, is that D? Yeah. So where's this capital? Long-term capital gains. I guess I'm having long-term capital gains this year. Oh, 2000. Yeah, that's 2030. Okay, no long-term capital gains this year. That's good. Oh, okay. Well, I know why. That's going to make sense because watch this. They're not going to have any long-term capital gains because they have the income they need from Social Security to pay their bills. So they don't have any long-term capital gains that they have to sell. They don't have to sell anything to generate long-term capital gains because here's we'll just go 2030. They got $102,000 of income flows, which comes from Social Security. So their Social Security is covering their income. But watch what happens here. The Social Security covered their income, but they have $10,000 of tax payments because we're going to go to invested accounts, assets. They have a portfolio return here of $84,000, of which that portfolio return is going to consist quite a bit of taxable interest and dividends for sure. So because the Wellesley Fund is so heavy into a taxable interest, we have 65% in bonds, which is taxable interest. And so here, because they have so much taxable interest, we go to 2030 from the Wellesley Fund. All right, watch this. So they got $40,000 of taxable interest, which is putting their Social Security benefits subject to taxation, which is going to bring forth whatever capital gains they have. Now, right here, I got them with no portfolio turnover, so they don't need any capital gains. But watch, if we want to change the portfolio to have capital gains, we go to profile. It's just going to be even worse. We're going to go to expenses.
Capital gains, we'll say they have a portfolio turnover of 5% a year, which is essentially what an index fund does, which means 90% of their capital gain will be long term. But then we go to retirement. So remember, they had $10,000